105 episodes, people, being with you. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for subscribing. And thank you so much for listening to 105 shows. We know it's called Laughter for All because we bring comedians on the show. And tonight we have a wonderful comedian who's going to join us. You probably have seen you've seen him on TV, you've seen him on the big screen, you've seen him all over, and I'm going to invite him in a minute to be with us. But right now, I just want to just welcome you and thank you for joining us here tonight. And want to remind you, we do have a show every single weeknight on Facebook under Comedian Nazareth called Laughter Live with Naz. It's an hour from 8:30 p.m. Pacific time till 9:30. We laugh for 53 minutes and then we ask you for prayer requests, and that's how we end the show. We encourage you a little bit, and it's been going on for 355 shows so far. So welcome, welcome, welcome everyone who's watching, everybody who's here. And right now I want to bring our sponsor that sponsor this show, and they're called Professional Botanicals. These are vitamins that I've been taking for weeks. And when I started, I tested them live on the show, and it just been working for me. And it took all the inflammation away from me. And also at the same time, I'm more focused. I have a lot more energy. I have few people who use them. There's Rita from Nashville that says she used to have pain in her back and her toe, and now it's gone. Another gentleman named Bobby said that his hands, he had carpal tunnel, and the cream that he got was helping him. So, and the energy is up all day long like me. So it works. So let me just play their video for a minute.
Supporting the body to be the best it can be. Whether it's physical activity, obesity, diet, smoking, low on hormones, stress, sleep disorders, or your age, can be supported by reducing inflammation and aiding the body to heal itself appropriately. A stem cell is a cell waiting to be told what it needs to be. If there is inflammation, that inflammation needs to be stopped. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, kidney disease, various types of cancer, depression, Alzheimer's disease, autoimmune disorders, osteoporosis, even fatty liver are chronic signs of inflammation and can be aided by supporting the body's ability to protect those cells that it needs, removing the inflammation. And that is the purpose of ImmuStem and AdaptoStem together, supporting the body to be the best it can be.
Yep. And thank you, Professional Botanicals. At the same, remember, these are not stuff you buy at Costco or Walmart. These are high-end vitamins that physicians take, and people who are serious about their immune system and about their inflammation. So if you want to use them, you can go to gethealthywithnaz.com and you can get them there. But I'm so excited to introduce, this is a good friend that I don't see a lot. The last time we were together, there was a new network happening, and we were at the Laugh Factory together, and we're able to do some, just hang together and catch up a little bit. Let me introduce him. You probably know Jimmy Labriola from the Home Improvement with Tim Allen on the sitcom on ABC. But let me introduce him officially. He was born in Queens. Jim's natural flair for comedy developed early on the toughest of audience, family gatherings. Routines from the comedy grades quickly became his measuring tool, and Jim rapidly rose through the comedy ranks with lifelong friends such as Tim Allen, Jerry Seinfeld, and Colin Quinn. After many years in comedy clubs, Jim joined the cast of ABC's hit sitcom, Home Improvement, and entered the living rooms of millions of Americans. He later appeared in the #1 movie, The Santa Claus. Alongside his film career, Jim continued to play sold-out venues with his edgy, New York-based comedy act. Raised as a Roman Catholic, ethics were taught to Jim at an early age. However, his stand-up routines were adult-focused and did not reflect his values. During the success of Home Improvement and subsequent opportunities, he purposed to develop a comedy that was hilarious, of course, but would also be uplifting and available to all audiences. He created the clean comedy act that is now his trademark. Today, Jim's stand-up shows has appeared before countless fans and attendees across the country. He frequently appears on television. A skilled performer, he is adept at hosting conferences, stand-up, and commentary. Jim's most recent DVD project, Heart Improvement, was filmed live and is now available. Jim and his wife reside in Florida and Tennessee. I think they're in Arizona right now. And he was on the Huckabee show, which I love doing. And please welcome my good friend Jimmy Labriola. How are you, brother?
How you doing, man? Long time, long time. You
I
made me
know.
realize how that was. Geez, that's got to be 10 years or more. That's
Yeah.
scary. At least 8
It
to
is
10 years ago, right? At least.
right. Yeah, I think probably 8 years ago, and it was called the Right Network. Remember?
Yeah, that
And
was. I was so looking forward to that. It was the right time too. You know, when we had a lot of. I traveled all over the country then with the Tea Party Express, which was these 3 buses that would travel all over the country, and I never. That was a God thing because as comics, we know, comedy's not meant to do outside in the daytime. You know what I mean? And a lot of these things I would go to, you'd have 20,000, 30,000, 15,000 people in these parks gathering. But,
yeah.
I guess after listening to all the politicians and all in the middle of the show, they were so hungry for comedy and I had fun. I really, it gave me a chance to see something like America at its best. These people would show up, and a lot of them were veterans. And like they said, the park was cleaner when they left than when they got there. So it was a phenomenal experience in my life.
That is
Phenomenal.
awesome. It is funny because the minute we talk to you or anyone talks to you, don't you feel they turn Italian and start talking to you like
Oh,
that?
but when I first moved to LA in '93, I had the same manager then as Tim Allen, and his name's Rick Messina, and he's Italian, and he's from Long Island originally. And of course, now he's been out in LA and he's trying to be the LA guy. But he said every time I was there, after 20 minutes, he got right back to like, "Hey, how you doing? Yeah, you got to do this gig tomorrow." It just brings, yeah, people get around me.
Let's.
They all want to be Italian.
I'm gonna be in New York in 2.5 weeks. I'm taking my daughter to see Hamilton on Broadway, and it's her birthday. And so, any advice since you're being from Queens, going to New York?
Yes, bring a machine gun, uh, 2 German shepherds, and a hand grenade. That's my advice.
I
And a
have the
big Bible.
grenade and
And
a big
Jesus and a
Bible.
big Bible. Yeah. No. I think that's phenomenal to go with your daughter to play. Broadway's still great. It's just sad that, the city's going through a bad time right now. It's kind of back to where it was in the 70s and in some ways even worse. I mean, I don't want to put a damper on your trip. You'll be okay
No, no,
because
no.
I made a few phone calls, so you're gonna be safe. So don't worry about nothing.
No,
But
why is that? What got New York back to that 70s? Like what was it like in the 70s? Is that, you mean, are we back to the mafia there or no?
no, actually, it was better when it was run by the mafia. They were better than the people that got in here now. It just, not to get into politics, but I mean, this knucklehead. I mean, God, talk about leading prayers. This mayor has just turned the city into puke in 2 terms. It's sad. I mean, Giuliani. Just when I moved out to LA in '93, Giuliani took that city and cleaned it up. He
Yeah,
changed
he did.
law. When I grew up there, you couldn't walk down Times Square. It was all pimps and prostitutes and peep shows and all those triple X movies. And Giuliani, I mean, totally cleaned the city up. And then the guy Bloomberg after him kept it going. It was even amazing when I would go back with my wife, and go to Central Park and I'd see all the Broadway shows. But I saw it coming, but I didn't see it was coming as fast as it did. I mean, now it's once don't let police be police. I mean, and they took away bail, and it's just crazy. I mean, look at the cities they run. You don't have to be an Einstein to go, okay, let's see the cities that have no God in it. Let's take God out of everything. Let's do this. Look at those blue cities. they're worse than third world countries. And then look at the cities that, are, I'm going to say, more conservative, more not afraid to say God and stuff. It's day and night. You can't compare. So the only thing I'm thinking, like living in Sedona now in Arizona, is I think we should do, like when you move here from California or one of these crazy places, that you are not allowed to vote for 5 years. That's the only thing we say. You cannot vote for 5 years, because some of these geniuses, they run away from that, and then they vote the same people in that do the same thing. So I think that we should make that a law, personally.
Yeah. Take me back to Queens when you were born. Were you the oldest son? Were you the youngest?
No,
what was your family
I'm the
like?
youngest of five kids. My mother had 3 boys and 2 girls. She had a boy, girl, me. There's a lot of age difference between me and my older brother and sisters. Like my oldest brother is 14 years older. My other sister's 13. My other brother was 10. And me and my sister were 3 years apart. So, it's funny, when you're the youngest, you want to be the oldest because they were out already having fun. But now I'm happy I'm the youngest. I get to wheel them now to get their checks. And they don't even know who I am anymore. But
that's funny.
It was a crazy neighborhood, Nazareth. You know what was good about it? It gave me an act. It gave me a good act, because I grew up in one of those neighborhoods in Corona, Queens, where like everybody was stealing or into something. And I joked, that's part of my act. I said, no matter how you got killed, no one ever saw or heard anything. It was always a heart attack. Just a heart attack.
That's
there
true.
could be 500 people standing there, and a guy laying in the street with an ice pick sticking out of his back. The cops going, what happened? I don't know. It looked like a heart attack. Yeah, the guy grabbed his chest and fell on it 16 times. I don't know nothing.
Hey, I don't know nothing.
Yeah, that's how I mimicked it, because it was like that. Like I said, I went to a wake one time. I'm standing there, the coffin. I look in. There was nobody in, but it was a little pillow with a hand on it. Yeah, yeah, with a pinky ring on it, of course. And
of course.
So the widow, she's crying. Oh, my husband. I said, what happened? Heart attack. I said, what did he fall in the wood chipper when he had it? So, but that's what it was a crazy, but it was a very tight neighborhood, very Italian neighborhood, because what was unique about it in Corona was all my relatives lived there, my grandparents, my cousins, my uncles. So you could walk to any relative, anywhere you wanted, and there was none of that you had to let them know you're coming. You just walked in and you had a meatball, and that's, Italians love to eat, of course, and because in my family, Nazareth, if you're under 250, they think you got cancer. I mean,
that's like our family. We're kind of close, Middle Eastern, and I live in Corona, California now. So we have so much in common. But you're right. You gotta eat. I mean, even the Jehovah's Witnesses, when they come to our door, Mom let them in and feeds them.
Come on, have them eat, have something.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, you can't have pork or whatever you want. We'll make it. But what I always laugh at the Jehovah's Witnesses? They come at your house 7 o'clock in the morning, right? And they wake you up at 7 in the morning to give you a pamphlet called The Wake. It's like, man, I was sleeping. You knocked on the door. I'm awake. All right, give me the pamphlet. Get out of here.
That's fine. Now, what did your dad do? If you can tell us legally.
Legally, all right, because I can't really say anything. It's 7 years now, so it's limitations. My father was a teamster.
A teacher?
No, teamster.
A teamster. Oh, he was in the.
Yeah, my father was a teamster, not a teacher. I mean, he taught people how to beat people up. I mean, if you consider that a teacher, maybe. But that's the old joke, Nazareth. How many teamsters does it take to screw in a light bulb?
How
10.
many?
You got a problem with that? I'm killing me here. But no,
I'm killing me. You're killing me.
He drove a dump truck, my father. And, that's what, and it was so funny back then because, when I was a kid, they called it hanging your dirty laundry out. My mother would clean the clothes and all. And my father was a big guy. He's like 300 pounds. So it was so funny from driving the dump truck, all his white shirts had like a black a black stain going across from the steering wheel, hitting his stomach. But he was a great guy. He was a funny guy, a tough guy, though, very tough. Everybody loved him. The kids, everybody want to hang out. He had 3 nicknames, my father, too. Most people don't have one. In the neighborhood, they called him 40, because some guy gave him, when they caught him stealing as a kid, the 40 thieves. So they called him 40.
40.
At work, they called him the Bull, because he was a really big guy. And his sisters, he had 4 sisters, called him Sonny. So he actually had 3 nicknames, my father, And because he was a good man, though. I remember one year me and him were in the same class. But never did good at school, though. One time the teacher asked my father, "Excuse me, Mr. Labriola, who shot Lincoln?" He said, "Hey, don't look at me. I don't know nothing. It's a heart attack." The guy with the hat thing, right?
That's right. Now, when did you start?
He was a fun guy to be around. He loved, very supportive in baseball with me and things like that, So, but he was a tough guy. Other kids were like, "Oh, my father did this, and my father did." My father, he put the Piccarelli brothers in the hospital. I'm proud.
Now, when did you start comedy, Jim? Tell me, what was your first gig and where?
Oh, that's a good question, man. It always came easy for me, comedy. Back then when I was about 16, 17, now this is the 70s. This is like the early 70s when comedy was really changing, from the old comics to like guys like, Richard Pryor and George Carlin and the Tonight Show when it was. So believe it or not, my first paid gig was an Elvis Presley impersonator called Greg Peters. And his father was Colonel Parker, who managed him, Colonel Parker. And I got $50. I got $50.
That's a lot of money.
Oh my God, it was 50, and he gave me a $50 bill too. It probably was bad at the time, this guy. But I never forget. It was like, oh my God, they just paid me $50, and I really had no act. That's how I started the dating game. I would get kind of 3 goofy kind of guys, and then I would pick a woman there, not to look at them, and ask. I would push it to ask dumb questions to these guys, and I would ad-lib it. And there were times I could do that whole thing for half an hour. People would be falling off. And that's how I kind of, started building an act.
And that was in New York, right?
Yeah, that was in New York. Yep, in New York City. That was in, God, where was that? It was like one of these clubs where years ago they didn't have really a lot comedy clubs. It was more like showcase clubs where you had a singer and a comedian, and you sat down and you had dinner and a band. So it was pretty exciting.
Now, when did you become full-time, where it became your full-time gig?
About 3 weeks ago. I finally made it. But no, that's a good question, too. That's why I love when comics interview. You guys know what to ask, right? You ever get those guys in the early morning radio? You're like, oh, God. You're like, please, stay home. I'll ask myself questions. When full time, I'll never forget. I was a Teamster when I was younger, like my dad, and I was working at night. I used to bartend and work driving a dump truck in the day. I had a great job, but one day I used to get sick, man. At night, I didn't want to go in anymore in the morning because I'd have to go to Brooklyn and be there at 6 a.m. And I'm hanging out with like Ray Romano and Chris Rock and all of us at the Green Kitchen, Colin Quinn, and it's like 1 a.m. in Manhattan, and I got to leave to drive. Now I'm the only one that had a car because I lived in Queens, and I got to go home. And then one day, man, I see this as clear as day. My friend too just passed away, God bless him. But one day I said, I don't want to drive a truck no more. So my friend said, then call the guy up and say you're done. And I never forget, to show you how far ago, I had a dime. It was a dime or a quarter for a phone call. I went to the phone booth, and it started drizzling a little bit. And I called up. I said, I'm done. And from that day on, I earned my living as a comic.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
I just took that shot, and it worked. I didn't have any money for the first couple of years that I had making the Teamster. But you know what? I took that risk, and I give God all the glory.
What was the worst gig you've ever done? Sarah's asking.
Ooh,
what was one of the...
Everybody knows it. In the comedy industry, there was a place called Betty's Fireside.
Uh-huh.
Okay, it was a one-night gig. It was upstate New York somewhere. Now picture this: it used to be a strip club,
Uh-huh.
so it had the audience out there. You could fit maybe about
I've
100
done
people.
strip. I've done a lot of strip
Well,
clubs in my
it
early
used to
days.
be
I
though.
know.
It used to be. It wasn't no more. They turned it into like a bar. So you still had the stage like heart shaped with the
Yeah.
brass rail. The bar was right under it, and you had about 100 people just saying, "You, the S word. You stink. Get up, you lousy." So you knew this. So this booker would make you play that club before he would book you in his other dives. You know.
Oh no.
So and you knew it. Like you get up, as soon as you go, "Hey, I'm Jim Labriola." Get out of here, you bum. I mean, and they were all in on it. And then finally, one time, I stuck with it, man. It took me about 15 minutes. And once you can turn them, you can turn them. But it was like,
Oh,
it was called Betty's Fireside. It was considered the worst club in the country.
and you did it.
Yes.
And you turn them around. Now, let me ask you this. When you started comedy, what was your dream? What was your dream? Where did you think you would be today or 10 years ago? Or where would you want it to be an actor on a sitcom, a comedian on a sitcom?
I
Would
can
you want
answer
it
that
to
right away, Nazareth. I wanted to
tell
be a
me?
star on a sitcom. That was my goal, especially back then in the 70s. It's when, big shows were coming out now, like Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley and all that. So for me, it was always to get somewhere. The comedy was more to get me to that sitcom. That was always my dream. And when I used to drive the dump truck, sometimes in Manhattan, I would pass ABC Studios. And
Uh-huh.
this the God's honest truth. And I'd look at it and I go, one day I'm going to be on the #1 show on ABC. And I would say that. What I said wrong was I should have said, one day I'm going to be the star of the #1 show on ABC, because I wound up being on the #1 show
I
on
know. And
ABC.
how did that happen? How
Yeah.
did that how did like you became friends with Tim Allen as a stand-up? How did that
Yeah,
happen
well,
on the Home Improvement?
My Uncle Dominic kidnapped his 2 kids. Oh, I can't talk to the radio. No.
It's a
Make a
joke,
short
people. It's
story
a
long.
joke.
Say hi to Daddy. But there's another thing. This is all God. It's not me.
Uh-huh.
Okay, this is what happened. One day, this is what changed my career. Excuse me. There was a club in Long Island called Governors. And that was
Governors.
kind of like my home base club. There's great audiences, and so Tim Allen at that time, this would be, I moved in the late 80s. Tim Allen was
Yeah.
the hottest comic in the country. He had a Showtime special called Men of Pigs. So people used to show up to the clubs with 2 belts and pig noses, right? And I didn't even know them. So this is what you learn. It's not always about the money. So anyway, they called me up one weekend and they go, "Jimmy, can you host this weekend? We need a host." And at that time, you know how we are now. So I'm like, "Well, I'm not a host anymore. I'm a middle or headline."
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, we'll give you $375." So I said, "All right, can I call you back?" So I called my friend Bob Piver, big guy that wrote a lot, very funny guy that wrote a lot of one-liners, more or less, for Dangerfield and Joan Rivers. And I told him, he goes, "Jimmy, what are you, stupid? You better call him right back. This guy's the hottest guy in the country. Whoever comes to see him will see you."
Right.
So thank God I called right back, because they could have got 50 other comics. I said, "All right, I'll do it." Not knowing that me and Tim were so, our acts are different, and I opened for him that night, and he just thought I was hysterical because, I was in my home base, and he was hysterical. And we hung out till like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, both nights. And we became like, it was, and he's not the most outgoing, but it just, and then as they say, the rest is history. He would call me up. We stayed in touch. And he says, "I got this show coming out." And then he would say, "You got to come out, move out to LA." And then, we'd go out and he'd go, "I want to get you on the show. You're so funny." And then I was going to be one of the neighbors, and somehow one guy thought I was too Italian. He apologized later on. So they actually created, Tim was very mad. He goes, "Well, while he's here, I want to give him a part." So I played a guy delivering a reindeer. That was my big line. I got a reindeer here for a Tim Taylor, and I forgot all my lines. I was so nervous. And then I did another one before Benny. I was the men in the kitchen, the men's kitchen. And then finally they actually created Benny for me for the last 5 years. So that I was actually supposed to have the spinoff of that. Tim Allen was spinning me and Blake Clark off as Harry's Hardware. It was a big deal on Entertainment Tonight. And man, it didn't happen. And then 2 years later again, and you know, to tell that story real quick, I was devastated for a year. You know, I would have been like Laverne and Shirley, the Jeffersons, you're talking a lot.
You're right.
But I wouldn't have met my wife. I know that sounds crazy, 450 man. But I wouldn't have met her, and I wouldn't have came to be born again, a Christian, what her sister was. You know what I mean? So everything happened for a reason. I mean, it just did. That's why they say, be careful what you pray for. You might get it.
Now, so you know, you were Home Improvement, then you did the movie, the Santa Claus movie. How was that?
That was the good one. Well, Tim asked me, you know, to do that, and the funny thing is, a small part, but they played it on all the promos and all the theaters when they show the promos on TV. It's me like that. I stole the show. I was like Charlie Chaplin in that movie. But and then, you know, I got other in the 90s. That's what I tell them. I'm Jim Labriola. I was big in the 90s. I did a lot of guest spots on other shows like Love and War, and you know, and then I found out that I got a show after about 6 months living out there. I got on a show called Monty with Henry Winkler.
Yeah, he's good. He's a nice guy.
I played his neighbor, Tommy DeFranco. But you know what? They only lasted like 7 or 8 episodes, this show. But he is the nicest guy. Me and Henry just clicked. I really wish to God, even more than the spinoff, that show would have taken off. Because it was my own thing, and we just clicked. Me and Henry, such a good man. He really is. No, so I got a lot of stuff like that, which of course, you know, raises your comedy money. And now I went from the Holiday Inn to the Hilton.
Right. Now, Jim, other than Tim Allen, who was your favorite comedian? Who did you think was hilarious? Because you're a New York act, and you know I'm an LA act. You know, so different comedians. We had Leno. You guys had Seinfeld, Quinn. You had Chris Rock, and all that. Who was your favorite?
I'm a little older than some of those guys. My guy that rocked my world as a kid was Don Rickles. That's my guy. Don Rickles was the guy that sent me for a loop. The ad lib of him. That's why a lot of people used to call me the Italian Don Rickles. So these were the guys I watched. Don Rickles, and there's a comedian called Pat Cooper, who's an old-time Italian comedian, probably one of the funniest, with a mic, probably one of the funniest guys. So number one was Rickles, Pat Cooper, and of course Dangerfields.
Dangerfield, yeah.
And then I loved, after that, when the new guys started coming in, I mean, George Carlin was a genius. Richard Pryor, till this day, the biggest compliment, Nazareth, I got. I was at the Comedy Store, and Mitzi was sitting in the back with Richard Pryor. And I still think that this really happened. And, you know, this is when he was sick. He'd come in, he had the MS, he shake a little bit, but he would go on once in a while. And after about a few minutes, he was Richard Pryor. So I didn't realize he was sitting back there with Mitzi, probably thank God. And after my set, he went like that, and he called me over, and he looked right in my face with his finger shake. He goes, "You funny man. You are funny man."
Wow, that's a big comment.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. You know, you want me to paint your house, whatever you need after that, you know? So it's one of those, like, you got to pinch yourself that he really, am I making this up? But he said that to me, which still gives me chills, you know?
What is it like getting so close to your dream? So close, even though, I mean, it's not a bad question, but I mean, you're big, you're big, you've done big, but you came close to that, and then,
it's to be honest, I mean, especially in back then in the early 90s, when you see yourself on Entertainment Tonight, there's 2 big stories on you. They come to the set with Tim, and he's joking with us, and you know, they follow you all around to the Comedy Store. It was heartbreaking because you're the guy. I mean, everybody, I mean, for a year was kissing up to me. And you figure, me and Blake we got along so good. It was an ensemble cast. It was devastating for me when it just didn't happen. And nobody told us why. We were 2 weeks away. So Disney gave me a holding deal, some money to keep me. And what upset me was Dice Clay, God bless him, he had a sitcom. He called me 8 times to do it. All I had to do was go across the street to Warner Brothers to read with him. If everybody said that's the guy, and I didn't, my manager had a loyalty for Tim, and I was depressed for a good year. I'm gonna, at least a year I was really down, really down. Then somehow 3,000 miles away, I meet my wife, and
I want to get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
How you came to Christ and how you met your wife, Rhonda. But there's a question said: did Benny ever get to work with Tim Conway or Harvey Korman?
No, but I had a blessing. I did have for over 2 years was, oh my God, Jonathan Winters.
Yeah, he's funny.
And Jonathan Winters and Richard Lewis would talk almost every day on the phone, and Richard Lewis was like a father to him. And I got into these conversations, and all I did was laugh. So at least once a week, sometimes twice, he actually called me Guido. Now, Jonathan Winters, if you're young, look him up, was one of the most genius. That's Robert Williams.
I know. That's true.
He can take this right here a half hour and make you laugh.
Yes, so, I love Winters, Jonathan Winters.
And all they would do was insult each other in a funny way. And I would laugh, and he started calling me Guido, and I was supposed to go. A few times I couldn't make it, and I was supposed to go with Richard to Santa Barbara to his house, and I had my It's a Mad, 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 Mad World tape, and he passed. But, so I never really, the Tim Conways, those shows, you could never have them again. I mean, come on. They cracked each other up, but I never got to meet some of those people. No, I'd love to have been on the show.
Now, who's your? Do you still connect with Tim Allen?
Oh, yeah.
You guys are.
Tim Allen, Ray Romano, I stay close with. Colin Quinn. My other friend John Manfredi, who opens for Ray. Yeah, these are guys over the years we've stayed pretty close. Richard Lewis, phenomenal guy. Just as funny on as off, neurotic both ways. And a good friend. Richard
How
Lewis.
was Jerry Seinfeld? How was he?
I met Jerry a bunch of times. He's a sweet guy. He's a really nice guy. Jerry Seinfeld. He's helped Colin Quinn a lot on a lot of projects. But he's a very, very good guy. Just a nice guy.
Right. Now, okay. God, I truly believe God got involved in this path of yours and made the show canceled. You were devastated. What happened then? Where did you see the hands of God in your life in that season?
Going back as a kid, just to tell you quick, we grew up Catholic, so we never went to church unless somebody died, got married, it was Easter. You never had, but one day when, and till this day, I don't know why, but it's a God thing. I was in a friend's house and something called me over, and there was a book. It was probably this size, just a little book, black book. And I opened it up, and it says, if you pray every day, you will see God. Don't know what that was, a Bible, don't. But from 8 years old till now, I prayed every morning and night. Fine. So I had this connection, but I always had a problem with the Jesus thing. Like how could God make his son be beaten up like that, all that kind of stuff. So make this shorter here is we started going to Florida, lived in LA, then we moved back to Florida for a little bit. And my wife's sister was born again, and then more like a charismatic church, very upbeat, very different.
Charismatic. Yeah.
Yeah. Not over the top, but like different. You know what I mean? Like there were hands in the air, happy. You had hands in the air in my church, you're getting robbed. All right, nobody move. You're going to meet Jesus in 2 minutes. But so make a short story longer. So she was in charge of the plays, so I always had to sit in the front. She always had to do the Easter play or this. And I'm like, oh man, I got to get out of here. These people too happy, when you don't know, you don't know. You criticize, you feel stupid. So one day, but the difference was her Pastor Wright, his name was. The guy could turn a choir into that was his gift, but he was a good pastor. But I never saw a guy talk about God the way he did, like he knew him, like it was his friend. This and gee, and I was attracted to it. So one day he asked me, "You want to go to lunch?" And I said, "Okay." And not knowing by the end of the lunch, I was giving my life, saying the sinner's prayer to him. And I remember
Amen.
watching Billy Graham and all these things all my life. I was always attracted, but I would not say the prayer. It's like, I have a problem with commitments, and that's why I got married at 39. And it just, and you know something? I thought, now what happens? Do I go to Disney World? What are we doing here? It was the hardest, probably 3 years of my life, because now I got convicted and I didn't even know how to read a Bible. I mean, I didn't know who Paul was, Paul, John. I said, "Where's Ringo? What are you talking about, the Beatles?" I really didn't know. Nobody ever explained it. So this guy would come over the house and teach me. I said, "Would you mind coming to the house?" And so I started asking him, and then I understood these were letters from Paul. And then all of a sudden, the words came off the pages like I was eating them. I couldn't get enough of it. But one scripture convicted me. You got to be careful. When you don't know, God protects drunks and babies. You walk and stumbling. But once he reveals himself, you're like, okay, you're responsible. So I'm reading one day, and all of a sudden I read Ephesians 5:4, and it says, "No coarse joking, no foul language." And now I'm convicted because my act is still blue. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to? I was so in turmoil. I said, how am I going to confess now? I'm a Christian and I'm up there talking blue. And I remember that some other guys got to make it worse and go, well, listen, you know what you do? Buy Jesus a ticket, sit him in the front and see what he thinks. I'm like, can we get a second opinion? And then finally, I actually had a show called City Bunkin' with my manager, but I was so distraught. And I had to walk away from my career. I couldn't do it no more. I actually was on my way to reading a movie, Bad Boys 2, with my wife in Miami. And I remember turning the car around. I said, I can't do it. That's how convicted I was. And then my manager was like, what are you, crazy? We got to meet with Fox. You got this show. And I'll say this quick. Here's where God gives you what you need. I'm like this now. Like my wife, everybody's saying I'm like a zombie because I'm so emotionally drained. And I go in a room, and I still remember 700 Club is on. I remember 1-800-759-0700. I go in the room, the guest room. I talk to this lady. I knew it sounded like a black lady. Within 5 minutes, she knew my whole thing. She lifted me up. She said, "I'll see you in the rapture, brother." And like the scales came off my eyes. And then my manager started cursing me. And that's it. You're fine. I don't want to work with you no more. And then about 3 years later, I tried to clean up because it's hard. If you put your jacket on with the left arm for 20 years and somebody says, now put the right. So I invited about 16 people over in the church in my living room with some clean material, and they laughed. And that's how this time I put myself in environments I had to be clean, like cruises back then, which you don't now. But
Right.
I did a show, Sanford and Sons, that had a big billboard of me. Benny from Home Improvement. I used to kill in this club, and it was like the devil was waiting for me. 6 months later, I can't even tell you. I went on a radio show. There was a naked girl there, and it was just crazy. It was just crazy weekend. As soon as I hit the stage, the language came back, and I got on my knees after that week, and I said, God, I'm done. I'll never do that again. And that's when I walked for my career, and then I built it up, and then it became better than ever. Better than ever, man. I mean, I played Carnegie Hall 4.5 years ago. That was my big, on December 10th, that's be 5 years this year. But God took me, and I never lost who Jimmy Labriola was. I was just even better now because I was doing it for different reasons and the joy of it. And I didn't have to curse no more. So there could be kids there, but I was still Jimmy Labriola, that edge, the Italian. It was great.
How was your marriage during those first years of coming to Christ and all
My
that?
5th or 6th marriage. No, just kidding. The marriage, well, we got saved together, got baptized. It was very, very hard. More so for my wife. It really was. A lot of anger, a lot of emotional, what did I do? I should move back to LA, and a lot of craziness. But what my wife always loved for me is I never made excuses. So, you know, like if I need shoes, I don't go to the butcher, or, you know, or vice versa. So I got myself outside help. I went to Christian counseling, which was really life-saving for me. And we had to work through. It was a tough, but it made our marriage stronger. It really did. Because, you know, we looked at our wedding video and like half of those people divorced now. More than half, you know? And I mean, we even had a Christian counselor say maybe you guys should separate, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Now, let me take you back before you continue. How did you meet her? I heard the story.
That's another God thing, Nazareth. I mean, I could tell the story 1,000 times. I still get chills. Okay, I'm living in LA. She's living in Florida. Don't know each other. I'm on the show. I'm on top, everything. So I said, let me go see my friend Frankie, Florida. I had my agent book me a club, so paid the whole trip. And then I'm in this at that time, this is like 96, 7 maybe. So real estate was starting to pop, and I see all these signs, real estate. I said to my friend Frank, man, you know what? Maybe I should buy a lot here to invest. So why this sign, 10,000 signs, and it wasn't even a regular like real estate office. It was like a trailer they were using. I go in there, start talking to this lady. I don't know, I was telling her about how crazy they are, us women in LA or whatever. She goes, I know this nice lady. You should take her out. I says, I'm here for a lot, not a wife. What are you talking about? So she started laughing, and my wife's very laid back and quiet, and she called her at the job, and we start talking, and I could tell she had a good sense of humor. We met that night in an Italian restaurant, and then I remember we got along really good. But I remember saying to her, like, well, you know, I have a career. I don't know how much we can talk and all, and everything's good. We hung out a couple of times because I was staying by my friend's house, and then she took me to the airport. I remember she said later on, she told me she actually got emotional, like, and we didn't know each other long. And I'm like, I don't know if I can call right away. I called her every night. And then 2 weeks later, I flew back and still with my friend again. And a year and a half later, we were married. So that's a good thing. And I remember I was so mad with my last relationship. I looked up to God. I was walking out of my favorite channel, and I said, God, you pick the next one. I'm done. I just went like that. I'm done. You pick. And I don't know how long after that, 3,000 miles away, you had to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Praise God. Now, so a Christian counselor told you maybe you guys should separate.
Yeah, this one, we had a really good Christian counselor we went to. Then, for whatever reason, I think later on when we picked up again, you know, we were starting to get, because there was some really good Christian. This one guy was actually a doctor too, but he was a Christian guy. And he actually got to this point saying, you know, maybe you two need to separate for a while, you know, and see what goes on. And I remember thinking, geez, if we can't do it together, why am I going to tempt myself going out there with all that temptation? And, if, you know, and something strong stood within me and my wife. Yeah, we didn't see him again after that. But I don't know, you know, who knows? The enemy works through, you know,
right. Even
people,
through.
but, yeah. But she is my rock. She is my soul brother. I mean, God does work through women a lot better than most people. You look at Jesus, the first one he appeared, it was a woman. You know, women are very big inside the, you know, I have a very fondness for women. I've had some incredible women help me in my life.
Wow. Now, do you guys have any kids or no?
No, I have one from I was married at 18. So my daughter, you know, was one of those, and it wasn't like an ad. We were stupid kids. We wanted to have a kid, and, you know, plus she had 3 brothers in the mob, and I'm like, Louis, put the gun down. Of course I'm going to marry her. Come on. But, you know, sadly, it didn't work out. We were 2 kids, and, you know, but I stayed single most of my life until I was 39, till I met my wife now.
Rhonda.
Yeah. And everybody out there, if you can, please pray for her health. She struggled the last 5 years with fibromyalgia and so fluttering. And her sister just found out she has leukemia. So they might have caught it early. So I know all you prayer warriors out there, if you can, pray for good health for my wife and for her sister. And for my old publicist, too, Diane, who's been struggling for like 130 days in the hospital.
Oh, Diane. Wait, your publicist, Diane Rogers.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a
She's
very
my
good friend.
publicist.
We've been praying for her. Ruth
Yes.
updates me
Yeah.
every single night. She's good. She
Yeah.
got better. She
And
went to
thank the Lord.
the
What a struggle. What a story she's going to have, you know?
oh man, she's
Rich,
104 days from COVID.
over 130 some days, I believe.
Yeah, right now I get it every day. I get we have
From
a
Ruth.
show
Ruth
that
writes every day. Now, we're
Ruth.
still
Yeah,
friends. We don't work together, but I had more fun traveling around the country with them. I'm telling you, real joyous times. And then Carmen, who I just feel so
yeah.
sad.
Tell me about Carmen. You did a show with Carmen on
5 times.
TBN.
We were so good together. They kept booking me with him. And if you look at some of the old tapes, it was fun. And he invited me to his wedding, and I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. I knew he was sick, but he just left me a message and sang the whole C'è la Luna song. C'è la Luna, mezze mare, mamma. Did the whole song on my tape. So
Is he
I don't know
Italian?
what happened. They were having some problems. Who was going to put the body out? I spoke to his nephew. And then somebody else called me and asked if I would speak at this thing they were having. But it was like all screwed up. No, you know what I mean? I couldn't get answers. But I'm so glad I had time to spend with that man. I mean, if you watch some of the shows on TBN.
Yeah, you guys got a lot of chemistry together.
It was hysterical. Yeah, I recommend you guys go out there and watch that.
Now, is he Italian?
Oh, yes.
Oh, Carmen is
from
Italian.
New Jersey.
Oh, Italian from New Jersey and Italian from Queens. That's a good
and you
show
know what
right
was
there.
funny? He had Rich. There's another guy that I think it's Rich Francesi, who was a mob guy who goes out and speaks. Phenomenal guy.
Oh, yeah. I know him. I listened to him.
Just a phenomenal.
Francine.
Yeah, so he had him on the show with me. So the funny thing is, I'm ready to leave, and Carmen grabs my arm and goes, "No, you're staying for the interview." So when he came out, I got on my knees, I kissed his ring. So his first line, which is funny, he goes, "This is the first time I've been on TV with two other Italians, and I'm not getting indicted."
That's funny. That is so funny. Now, what do you call it? How was the COVID thing? The whole year and a half of COVID. How did that impact you? And why did you leave Tennessee?
Well, we mainly left Tennessee for the weather, for my wife's health, for the dry year. We want to get back to the dry year. But being out here really never affected my life. I mean, I'm very careful because my wife's immune system is a little lower. I took a mask everywhere I went, washed my hands 800 times, but I never stopped living. But God has blessed me again, too. 5 years ago, I got involved with a security company. I took a small, friends of mine had this little security company, and I grew it in 5 years to a national company where you see all the truck stops throughout the country, like Love's, Flying J, and all of those. My company does that. They were all armed guards. So I started with one, and now I'm the guy all over the country. And that, I sat there a couple of years ago, Nazareth, and I'm thinking to myself, like, how did this happen? I was so overwhelmed, and the only answer I had was God. That's the only answer I had. Now, God moves mountains, but bring a shovel. You got to do the work. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if you give to him, I've always, and I'm telling you, who's ever listening out there, whether you're in business or your life, and this is a fact how I live my life, especially the last 37 years, is if you put the spiritual before the material will always follow. If you put God first, I don't care what I try to simplify life like this. You're responsible for the effort, not the outcome. That's it. You're responsible for the effort. The outcome's God's. Okay? And usually when God's in it, I'm not crashing my head in the wall. It seems to go. But, there were things in my career that should have happened. I had a 150-day tour. I had this. And for some reason, it wasn't happening. Now I thank him it didn't happen because I wouldn't have had grown this business. So now I'm in a place where, I can do what I want when I want. And I want to really get back into acting again. I enjoy acting. Or just giving a good message. My heart is for women and children that are abused too. I have a big heart for like a place. I know what that felt like where, when there's an abusive husband and a woman and a child got nowhere to go, So I'm very big into trying to be involved with that, and like a safe house for women.
This is funny.
And children.
This
Yeah.
is funny you say that. Me and my wife, normally we don't watch TV, but there's a show on Netflix called Maid, Maid.
Mm.
And if you watch it, there are like 10 episodes. There's a lot of F words on it. That's on it. But other than that, everything's fine. But it talks about abuse and how she leaves to with her daughter to this safe house. And it just, and me and Maha were going, Lord, we need to support that. This is because this is
Yes.
so important to be able. That's awesome that you mentioned that. I would then encourage you to go watch it on Netflix. It's
Oh,
called Maid.
yeah. But there were incidences where my mother, my father had a great guy and all, but he had, if today's world he would have taken a pill, things would have been different. But he had kind of that short fuse, and there were many times, 12, 13, I had to rush my mother out to the neighbor's house. This neighbor
Oh.
Diane, and all my brothers and sisters out, and it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. And then your brothers come, and then they leave you there. So I even said if I started my own, it'd be either my mother's name, Virginia's house, or Diane's house, because that was the guardian angel God put us in our life, was this lady Diane. And every child and every woman should feel safe in this world.
That's a great ministry, man.
Yeah.
That's a great ministry. And what do you call it? As far now, you said something when we talked earlier. You said, "Now I am picky about the shows I choose to go." What would be a show you would go to, like if they call you right now and you're busy with your security company?
Well, something like where I not only do comedy, but I would get to talk, and it'd probably be something like that. The last thing I really did big like that was like all these bikers and different people. And, I come up there like you. I mean, and I'm not saying this to boast, but this guy is one naturally funny man. When I first met you, it's just you. You're one of those guys you just can't help being funny. You're funny. And God has used you did you get to pick your own Christian name? Let's see. I'll pick Nazareth.
Nope. It was the GPS that picked me,
GPS. But you are just you live your faith. You're a phenomenal guy, just like my friend Dave Pendleton, another guy.
Oh yeah, I know Dave.
Dave, I love Dave. One of the best ventriloquists there is around. If you see the art of him, he's the best than anybody as far as the mouth and all that. So, but I would probably, if it's something that touches my heart like that for a good cause, I would probably, do. And like I said, right now, I know a friend of mine that wrote a big part for me in the movie they're trying to get funding for. But I also used to do a show called Night of 1,000 Guidos, which, was all headliners, all Italian headliners. And it was Ray Romano did it with me. So sometimes I go out and do that. But you know what? When I got saved, I turned it. And all those guys do the show clean now. And it taught a lot of them, because they only had to do 15, 20 minutes. And they thanked me. I said, come on, you can't throw that out. And a lot of those guys that used it didn't use it during my show. And they were blown away by it. And they got more work from it.
Wow. That's how about Dom Herrera? Have you ever worked with Dom Herrera?
Oh, Dom. I know Dom, yeah. We never hung out, but yeah, we actually, long time ago. We've been on shows together, yeah. But I know Dom to say hi, Dom, so I never really hung out with him.
Now, tell me again about the movie The Santa Claus. That's a big production. What was that like? Where was it shot? How much time were you on the set?
No, I did mine in like a day, actually, in front of a green screen in California, and it was a lot of fun. And I said they wanted me right away, Tim, be the truck driver. So now I said, where's my lines? What happened was they couldn't open the door. They couldn't open the windows and the door. So my thing is all a look. He comes over to me and he's asking me directions how to get to this. And then actually the truck crashes, but they cut that part out. I crashed with the truck and stuff. But what was so, they say there's no small parts in a movie. What was so great was that they showed the promo everywhere. So every year I get calls Christmas time. All of a sudden I got all friends again. Every time, Christmas they play it. And that really was the classic one. Not to down it, the other ones. The other ones were more about that. But the first one truly was a classic. I almost wish they didn't make the other ones, because that was that if you look at that movie, it was the original director, John Pasqua from Home Improvement. He's just a great director. I was in another movie with him called Joe Somebody. That was
Oh yeah,
with Jim Belushi. They should have called it
yeah.
Joe Nobody because nobody saw it. Because Tim, listen to this. They put the movie comes out Christmas time, right? And
Right.
Tim's trying to tell him it's not a Christmas movie, and it came up against Lord of the Rings.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yes, but now a lot of those movies have caught on when they got on.
Yeah, on the other streaming video. Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Just this, imagine with me, you're in Queens and you meet your dad who's 10 years old. What do you tell him?
Dad, I'm going to beat you up now because you're 10 years old. I think I can beat you up now.
No, he's not your dad right now. He's not your dad, but he's a boy in Queens, in Corona, New York, and you're talking to him now that you lived that life and you've met Jesus. What do you tell him? And there's someone listening and watching this episode is gonna hear Jim speak life into someone.
Wow. Well, you know what? Geez, that's a beautiful thing. First of all, I would tell him what a great guy is, and to put God first before everything. You know what I mean? And if you feel like you need help in any area with anger or anything like that, please go seek help. But turn to God and just let people love you. Let people love you and just want you to know what inside you're an incredible person and a loving person and a person that enjoys life and just enjoy the blessings that God's going to give you in the future. Really enjoy them. Yeah.
Yeah. How can people go ahead?
And the one thing I want to say to people, and this comes from a lot of years of recovery, a lot of work, day at a time, is you have to forgive. No matter how bad, no matter how tragic. What I love about the Lord is he will take the worst thing that happened to you and turn it into the most precious thing you have. Just like a drunk helping another drunk, a rape victim helping another. Who could understand you but that person? And God will use that in you. But first, the two greatest commandments are love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I found out that, especially in people that drink, the number one thing that gets them out again is resentment. And we all know resentment is like you take the poison, but you hope the other guy dies.
Yep.
It just affects you. So there's a freedom when you can truly, sometimes I see Christ's hands like this, and I have to place people in it, whatever it is. Or I get a God box, just a shoe box. I put God box on it, and I write something, and I throw it in there, if I'm overeating, whatever's bothering. You don't have to spell good either. I can't spell good. God knows what you're saying. And you put it in the God box. And, the thing is, you have the choice to also take it back. He gives us that choice. But you got to forgive. A lot of us were harmed as kids. A lot of horrible things were done, and a lot of things we've done from being harmed when we get older. But number one, you have to forgive people, places, things, but you also have to forgive yourself. And that's what people have the hardest part, is forgiving yourself. Jesus came back for the people, the broken, the people that needed him. That's who he came back for. I mean, I read the Bible, like I said, I read the Bible. Everybody in there was psycho. I was like, where are these people coming from? This guy murders guys. This guy's a tax collector. And that's who God uses. If my pastor don't got a bullet hole, I don't want to talk to him.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time. And how can people get a hold of you, Jim?
They got to call you.
Okay. That's a good way. I will connect Jim to you, but what's an easier one?
Anybody, or you can go to my regular email is very easy. Haha Jim, HAHA, haha Jim at AOL.com.
And they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, haha Jim at AOL.com. And Nazareth, I feel honored that, I know you know a lot of people that you called me. I believe this is a God thing tonight. Amen. Anything I can do for you. We need the warriors out there, You know what I'm saying? God said in the Bible, laughter is good like a medicine. It is. When you can start laughing at those bad things, you're healing.
Yeah. And pastors, if you're watching or listening, you need to have Jim come not just to do comedy, but also to speak and share his story and his testimony. It really will impact a lot of people. Jim, thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
your
And I
time,
really
brother.
prefer actually talking more of the testimony, actually,
Amen.
now in my life. I actually enjoy doing that even a little more. The comedy's always there because we're natural, but, I want to bless you, and please pray for him and his ministry and his podcast.
Uh,
It's just, I
and
had a
we
great
will
time.
be
God
praying
bless you and your family.
tonight. If you want to join us tonight on every weeknight at 8:30, we will. I have some great group of people that will pray for you and pray for your wife and pray for her sister. They will. I know that we've been praying for people a lot and we've seen miracles. The thing that really bothered me is you're an Italian that has a security company. That's kind of just like
Well, it's like this,
defeats the
Pastor. You
purpose.
go up to a restaurant and say, "Hey, listen, are you the owner?" Hypothetically, let's just say, hypothetically, I throw this garbage can
Hypothetically.
through your front window. Hypothetically, you're going to need security, right? All right, we start Wednesday.
Okay, you don't want to start a heart attack. Love you, man. Thank you so much for
Love
your
you
time.
too. Bless you.
Take care. God
Take care,
bless you.
everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jim. All right. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And what a great guy. What a great interview. What a great testimony of how God touches the life of tough man, rough man. You're from Queens. You were you were in the in the mob, and then you're doing all this comedy, and then you come to Christ and you change your entire show. It's just amazing what God has done in his life. A great guy. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to the podcast, encourage your friends to subscribe, and join us on at 8:30 p.m. Pacific time every weeknight on Comedian Nazareth on Facebook for an hour of Live with Naz, where we'll laugh together. Also, if you need to, increase your immune system and increase your energy, increase and lower your inflammation, so go to gethealthywithnaz.com, gethealthywithnaz.com, and get some great vitamins. Love you and thank you, and have a blessed night.